The Peloponnesian War, 431 to 404 BCE, was one of the most destructive conflicts in ancient Greece, engulfing nearly the entire Greek world in a struggle for dominance between Athens and Sparta. While military strategy, shifting alliances, and internal civil wars all played a role in the eventual downfall of the Athenian Empire, one of the most devastating and unexpected tragedies to strike Athens was the plague that swept through the city in 430 BCE. This plague not only ravaged the population but also exacerbated political divisions, undermined confidence in leadership, and hastened the decline of Athens during its greatest period of vulnerability. This story examines the double blow of plague and politics that tore Athens apart, transforming the once great city from a beacon of democracy and power into a society racked by fear, disillusionment, and instability. 1. The rise of Athens' power and prestige. Before the Peloponnesian War began, Athens was at the height of its power and prestige. Under the leadership of Pericles, the city had become the cultural, intellectual, and naval center of the Greek world. Athens had led the Delian League, an alliance of city-states initially formed to resist the Persian Empire, but which had since evolved into a de facto Athenian empire, with subject states paying tribute to maintain the Athenian navy and economy. Pericles' vision of Athens as the school of Hellas had brought about a flourishing of art, philosophy, and democracy. The Acropolis, with the Parthenon at its center, symbolized Athenian grandeur. But as Athens' power grew, so too did its enemies. Sparta, a militaristic and conservative land power, increasingly viewed Athens' imperial ambitions as a threat, and the war between the two became inevitable. When the Peloponnesian War broke out in 431 BCE, Athens and Sparta prepared for a long and bitter struggle. Pericles, confident in Athens' naval strength and resources, devised a defensive strategy that he believed would ensure Athens' survival. Avoid direct land battles with the superior Spartan hoplites, withdraw the rural population behind the city's long walls, and rely on the navy to maintain supply lines and conduct raids on enemy territories. It was a plan based on patience and resilience, but Pericles could not have foreseen the tragedy that would soon strike his city. 2. The outbreak of the plague, 430 BCE. In 430 BCE, as the war entered its second year, a mysterious plague broke out in Athens. The overcrowded conditions inside the city's walls, where the entire population of Attica had taken refuge from the Spartan invasions, created a breeding ground for disease. The exact nature of the plague remains a subject of historical debate, with scholars suggesting various diseases, such as typhoid fever or smallpox, as possible culprits. The Athenian historian Thucydides, who lived through the plague and survived it, provides a vivid and harrowing account of the epidemic in his history of the Peloponnesian War. According to Thucydides, the plague struck without warning and defied any attempt at treatment. It spread rapidly, causing fever, vomiting, and violent convulsions, often followed by death within days. Those who cared for the sick were quickly infected, and the high mortality rate overwhelmed the city. The death toll was staggering. Thucydides estimates that as much as 1/3 of Athens' population died in the outbreak, including soldiers, sailors, and civilians. The plague claimed the lives of the rich and poor alike, devastating every class of Athenian society. The city, once vibrant and orderly, descended into chaos as bodies piled up in the streets, temples, and houses. 3. Social and religious breakdown. The impact of the plague on Athenian society went far beyond the immediate loss of life. It also shattered the moral and social fabric of the city. The fear and panic that gripped Athens caused many to abandon their traditional values and religious beliefs. As the plague ravaged the city, many Athenians began to lose faith in the gods, believing they had been abandoned or cursed. Thucydides describes how the plague led to a breakdown in religious and social norms. Funerary rites, which had been an important part of Greek religious practice, were abandoned as the dead were hastily buried or left unburied due to the sheer number of corpses. Temples, once places of refuge, became overcrowded and disease-ridden. Priests and religious figures were unable to provide comfort or explanations for the disaster, leading to widespread disillusionment. In this atmosphere of despair, many Athenians abandoned moral restraint altogether. Thucydides writes that people turned to hedonism, engaging in reckless behavior as they no longer feared divine punishment or the consequences of their actions. Lawlessness spread, and acts of violence and robbery became more common as social order crumbled. The psychological toll of the plague was profound. For many Athenians, the plague represented not just a physical affliction but a symbolic attack on the very heart of their city, its people, its values, and its future. 4. The death of Pericles and political fallout. Perhaps the most significant victim of the plague was Pericles himself. In 429 BCE, after nearly 2 years of the epidemic, Pericles succumbed to the disease. His death marked the end of an era for Athens. Pericles had been the city's leader for decades, and his policies had shaped Athenian democracy, culture, and foreign affairs.